Yes, yes, you are now tuned in to the TRUENORTH.BET podcast brought to you by TRUENORTH.BET. Understand that it's TRUENORTH.BET, a bet always in the right direction. You already know what it is. It's your boy BJ Brandon Graham here, and we're back with another one on the TRUENORTH.BET podcast. And I'm pleased to be joined simply with this great company and so on and so forth. So please be sure to go on TRUENORTH.BET, put down your parlays, put down your bets, futures, whatever it may be, because it's always a bet in the right direction. You can find our podcast on Spotify, on SoundCloud, and on many other platforms in general for all your listening needs. Wherever you do find your podcast needs, that's where you're going to essentially go. And we're going to get going with our NBA breakdown today, as we did come off seeing the Denver Nuggets winning their first NBA championship in franchise history. Doing a great job with Jokic, seeming as though he wasn't too excited about his first NBA championship. Mike Malone saying that they're ready to run it back. Jamal Murray out of Kitchener, Ontario, doing a stellar job in the finals, being the most efficient player as a guard in the finals by far, bringing his team to a championship in Denver, beating the Miami Heat. And Miami Heat, once again, great story as an 8 seed, beating the number 1 seed, beating the number 2 seed, getting to the NBA finals, putting on a show, especially with guys that have been trying to prove it their entire careers, with Max Strus and Gabriel Vincent and Caleb Martin. The list goes on of guys that intentionally have been cast away their entire careers, still getting to the NBA finals and proving themselves, and will all be paid or courted by some team going forward. So they did a great job for their careers without Tyler Hero. But you saw that the Miami Heat definitely need a secondary player. You do have Jimmy Butler that had incredible moments to start out, but going from the playing tournament, beating the Chicago Bulls where they almost lost, and then going to play the number 1 seed and going to play, of course, the Boston in the Eastern Conference Final. Essentially, it's really tough for them to get everything done. It's almost as though they ran out of gas, but almost came back with the likes of Kyle Lowry, with the likes of Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo proving himself as a worthy all-star and a guy that should be a max player. Great job by them getting to the finals and losing in 5 ultimately to the Denver Nuggets, who were the best team in the league the entire year. Bar none, best team in the league the entire year. There's too much firepower with Jokic in the middle, too much firepower with the reserves they have, with the Kentavious Caldwell-Popes, Bruce Brown showing himself, being able to shoot the ball, play more like a guard. Aaron Gordon has been one of the top picks in the same year that Andrew Wiggins came out, becoming a problem, just be stronger than everyone else. He's coming to his own. So many guys have just shown themselves to be quality pieces on the floor. Michael Porter Jr. not really shooting as well, but still coming into his own and getting in buckets late in order to help his team receive that NBA championship. So congrats to the Denver Nuggets. They're going to be contenders again next year as they have most of their team coming back. The 2-man game between Murray and Jokic wasn't stoppable the entire year. But Miami did show that they can find some weaknesses through his zone, and they still got it done. Right? Jokic is the best player in the league right now. May not be the best, the most talented player. You can still say LeBron is still one of those guys, is one of the top players. But what Jokic has provided has been invaluable and simply just incredible altogether, what he's done. Really good job by him. Really good job by the entire team. Mike Malone's a great coach. We'll see them back again. That's exactly where you want to see the Raptors be as well. The reason being for why I'm saying that is because the Denver Nuggets, they built everything through the draft. They got Nikola Jokic in the draft, Jamal Murray in the draft, Michael Porter Jr. in the draft and the lottery. Building around those guys, having these guys develop. Aaron Gordon was traded from Orlando, but he was a great player with Orlando. Left an area where they weren't winning at all, comes to Denver and becomes a piece that is pretty much the X factor. So building through the draft is what many teams want to do. There wasn't a super team at all. You can say that the fact that they've made their team through trades and the draft, very similar to the 2019 Toronto Raptors. Of course, Kawhi being there and being the unstoppable force, not being developed in this particular system in Toronto, but still getting to the finals and doing what he does. Incredible stuff by the franchise. Kroenke was the owner of the of course, the Rams, Los Angeles Rams, other teams as well too. He's a basketball guy, and seeing that they stayed very patient with Jamal Murray through his injury, still got the job done, and so on and so forth. It's something that you have to marvel at. Something that you really be very appreciative of, that some teams can build for the draft and they can be patient and you could still get it done at some point. It's just a matter of time. You can't simply just trade everyone or make a super team. Super teams may be dead. Super teams may be the end of it. It may be the end of super teams. But with that being said, we're going off to another big moment in the NBA, another big blockbuster trade to bolster the legs of another super team. Even though they saw exactly what the Denver Nuggets did, and they got killed by Denver Nuggets in that particular series without Chris Paul. But the Washington Wizards have traded all-star Bradley Beal to the Phoenix Suns for Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and a handful of second-round picks and multiple pick swaps. Okay, this is reported by Shams Charania. So Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and now in Phoenix. Bradley Beal, in his no-trade clause, was able to pick exactly where he went with his no-trade clause, right? It allowed him to choose next destination. He chose Phoenix over like some Milwaukee, Sacramento, Miami. He chose the Phoenix Suns. It could be location, could be the fact that he has a good relationship with Kevin Durant being from the MDV. You never know. But does this make the Suns any better? If you really think about it, in 2 years, right now, they're at $163 million, which is over the tax just for 4 guys. With Aiden, Booker, Durant, and Beal, $163 million. That's over the tax. Plus, you have to bolster an entire team. So Matt Ishbia, the new owner of the Suns, wants to do something. He's trying his best to make his team as formidable as possible to make a deep playoff run. But they don't have a point guard. Devin Booker's not going to play point guard. Each and every one of these guys need to be able to get buckets. They've always been the main guy in their teams to get buckets, and now they're all on one team. It's different if you had a Steph Curry. It's different if you had a Donovan Mitchell because he can facilitate. They can both facilitate and make threes. But Bradley Beal doesn't necessarily make your team that much better. Going from Chris Paul there, it's more scoring. They'll get more open looks. Well, what entirely will that? What will it really do for them? Not much. Not much. I'm already saying off rip that essentially this team will still be a playoff team, but Kevin Durant will have to shoulder most of the load if the other guys are not scoring properly. They're not going to be able to move the ball around. It'll be easy in the regular season, but when it comes to playoffs, how can they even guard the Denver Nuggets? How can they guard teams that have length and will force you to play on both sides of the ball or both sides of the court? It's going to be very tough to see exactly what happens there. And once again, it's a big blockbuster trade. Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant have great relationships. They want to make it work. Chris Paul obviously is being shipped off because, of course, of his age, not necessarily being healthy when they need it most. And that's up to them. That's their decision. And unfortunately, I don't think he'll ever win the championship unless he, declines staying with the Washington Wizards and then finds a destination. But it'll be really, really tough to see exactly where the 38-year-old veteran will end up in his career. Will he receive a ring? Will he end his career without a ring like Carmelo Anthony? Very sad because he's had opportunities to be there, never really capitalized on that as well. So Phoenix Suns, as I'm going to state right now, are going to be a competitive team. Of course, they have to be. They're in the West. They had those 3 All-Stars. Yes, Bradley Beal's efficiency has gone down stats-wise when it comes to his on-ball percentage with ISO and, of course, his field goal percentage. But with his team, who knows if he's going to be more motivated to get back to the level that he's playing at when he first started in the league, or even 3 or 4 years into the league when he was an absolute beast with the Washington Wizards and was not able to be contained. Great player out of Florida. I always thought Bradley Beal was going to be a great player, and he's become that. But now he's a veteran playing with those 2 other guys. Let's see if he does something. And to add onto the list of guys that would help this team out with getting somewhere in the Suns, Damian Lillard. Put Damian Lillard on a team with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and that's a completely different story because he's a point guard that can facilitate, able to score and facilitate. and that will be really tough to guard. But we digress. Chris Paul now with the Washington Wizards. Where does he end up? Don't really know. Don't really know exactly if he's going to decline his option to stay. Don't know if he's going to request to be released. But he's with the Washington Wizards right now, and we paid handsomely to play in that system out there in the MVP. With other situations happening in the league, of course, Ja Morant has received a 25-game suspension from the NBA. Very surprising news to me, etc. In general, this is the second time that he's defied the exact same, rule. The fact that you cannot have any firearms shown on social media. It's really incredibly disappointing that this has happened again. But it's happened. He's gotten 25 games. Very lucky. I think it's as though it's like a slap in the wrist. 25 games is not enough. I feel like he should have got at least half a year. Should have got probably close to a year, which will probably be a little bit too much. But essentially, it's one of those things that you need to make an example of someone. But 25 games is a lot. He has his sponsors that he's apologized to, said it was like a candle, said it wasn't a firearm. It doesn't matter. It's the principle. It's the intention around it. You're listening to NBA Youngboy. You're showing a gun. What does that mean? It doesn't matter if the gun is a candle. Ridiculous. But Ja Morant is required to meet certain conditions by the NBA before returning to action with the Grizzlies, and will be ineligible to participate in league or team activities during his suspension. So that's going to be a long time away from what he's doing. With that being said, Morant did wield a firearm while knowing that he was being recorded and the recording was being live streamed. So that's the grounds of what the NBA, how they made the decision. He is still a star for that team, but 25 games is a pretty significant portion of the year. But this is what he does. This is exactly the punishment that he needs to take, and he must come out of it better. He apologized once again to all of his fans, all the children that look up to him. But it doesn't matter what you say until action is done. You must change and not persona, but your outlook on the game. You must change exactly how the way you approach the game. You must change the way you approach a lot. I know you're super young, but you have to grow up. You have a daughter. You have a family. You have millions and millions of followers. Fix up. Fix up. Another team that has to fix up very soon is the Boston Celtics, as they have to make a decision to bring Jaylen Brown back. Will you bring Jaylen Brown back? The salary cap is a major deal. He'll be demanding a 5-year, $295 million extension, but he's 26. So you have to do it. The Boston Celtics have to bring him back. They've gone into the Eastern Conference Championship 2 years in a row. They've gone into the NBA's championship series last year. He has to be brought back. He's really young. Yes, he can't dribble with his left hand. Sometimes he cannot show up in the big moments, but he's still a guy that is one of the top 15 players in the league. At least top 15. Not top 10, but top 15. They have to bring him back. He is worth it. He must work on his dribbling. It's almost as though he couldn't really dribble in the NBA finals. Got very tense and very key moments during the year. He has to be brought back by the Boston Celtics. They have to. They have no choice. They have to bring back Jaylen Brown. They have to bring back Jason Tatum. If he leaves, it will be a travesty because you'll be restarting. Yes, this year Malcolm Brogdon was injured, but with all those three guys back, who knows exactly what you can do, right? Lost to Jimmy Butler and Miami Heat, but still came back from a 3-0 deficit. Still almost made history with that. And that's one thing that really makes a lot of a difference. And Jaylen Brown is one of the reasons why they made it there. So Jaylen Brown will be brought back. He should be. He's 26 years old. He's not near his 30s as of right now. He has time. I think by the time he's 30, 31, that's when you can kind of release him and see, depending on if you win a championship or not. But this is the time you have to lock in him because he brings so much value and you've succeeded with him in the fold. So Boston Celtics, don't mess it up. Bring him back. If you don't, hopefully their team can pick him up and actually use him as their main guy. And one guy I think that can really help the Miami Heat or a contender right now is Damian Lillard. I feel as though he needs to be put into a situation to change his scenery, whether it's the Philly, like Lakers have said that have been some rumblings, Miami, helping a team get to the next level. I think he's the ultimate player that can do so because he can facilitate, as I've said before, because he can score at will, because he's a great leader. He's someone that can help a team right now win the championship. I would like to see him in Miami to help out Jimmy Butler in that team. I would like to see him with no taxes there and be able to get over the hump. But he's someone that should be out of Portland. Portland has clearly said they wanted to build around or pretty much restructure the entire team. They built through the draft. They're trying to build through the draft. They're not going to contend anytime soon. Loyalty cannot be the primary factor right now. Damian, get out of Portland. Get out of Portland. Spread your wings. Cheat the grind, my brother. My brother in Christ, please cheat the grind. Go find a team that needs you right now. Miami here or there. The Lakers are there. Get yourself a championship, my brother. Get yourself a championship. And speaking of teams that need a championship very soon, the Toronto Raptors, they need to get back into the fold. Gary Trent Jr. has opted back into his contract. Fred VanVleet has declined his option. He's on the market now, going to free agency. Bobby Webster and Masai have said that they're still trying to bring back Fred VanVleet. Even though he's on in free agency, they still think they're really confident in bringing him back. I don't see that as the case. But Nick Nurse being in Philadelphia, I see Freddie going to Philadelphia or seeing how the market is. He's another guy, cannot stay healthy. He's not a super athletic player, can make a lot of shots for you, can put up numbers, but how much does that translate to when it matters most? How much does it translate for him being the main catalyst as a guard to get you to a championship? It can't. He can't. Damian Lillard can. Fred VanVleet cannot. He's already shown it. They lost the playing game. He will show up for you every now and then, but there's so many other players that can get you over the hump. He's another player that can be added to the fold to help a championship team, just like he did with the 2019 Toronto Raptors. But he's not the main catalyst. That's the bottom line. We have a new head coach in Darko Rajovic looking to build the swag. He says build with these young players, trying to build the program now. It's a rebuilding stage. Where do we go from there? Are you taking the same players? It's probably best to kind of start yourself, new fold of players, young players, build them up and see exactly where you go. So Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster will be with them all the way. All the way. The NBA has taken a turn, and it's been a great, great year. There's many moving parts. The free agency is going to be absolutely wild. Cannot wait to see exactly where some of these guys go and how spicy the entire offseason will be. But in the East and the West, it's still wide open. The Denver Nuggets this year still were not necessarily favorites to start. They probably were one of the favorites, but no one believed that the Denver Nuggets would win the NBA championship. No one believed. I didn't believe, you didn't believe, but they made it happen. They made it happen. They got their first. The NBA is wide open right now. That's the reason why all these teams are making a number of different moves and different risks, because you can get a championship if you have the right pieces together. You build through the draft properly. Through the draft, you have Scoot Henderson and, of course, Victor Wembanyama going to the San Antonio Spurs. He had a little interview with JJ Redick and said, hey, I'm free in this universe. I'm so driven that it doesn't matter. People say I'm the best prospect since LeBron. If I'm this and that, he just is driven and motivated because he knows exactly what he wants for himself. And that maturity coming from a 22-year-old is second to none. It's something that you don't really see too much. 22-year-olds don't necessarily know exactly what they want, but he's driven by success. He's played professional for a few years, which is you've seen with many players like the Giannis's, the Jokic's, guys that have played professional, Luka Doncic, that they're a little bit more mature because they already have done it overseas. Really, really deep dive with him. And I think he's going to be really successful because he's free. He doesn't care about the pressure. He's not really engaged and all that stuff. He just wants to do great. He's free in his mind. He says that he's super, super grateful of just being in this position and playing the game that he loves. The biggest prospect since LeBron, and we'll see exactly how it all pans out. But he's going to be creative 7'4", 7'5" player that can do it all in the court. Almost looks like a giraffe. Him, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller out of Alabama, which should be the top 3 players going in the draft. Many guys that have, Grady Dick. You have a number of guys that have come from the entire or different teams in the NCAA that are great players. It really, really depends because I think this year's a pretty deep list of players that have gone are going to be solid contributors to a team even this year. But essentially, it will take some time. It will take some time for a lot of these guys. Jordan Hawkins out of UConn being the NCAA champions this year, worked out for teams like the Raptors and the Boston Celtics. He's another great player that I think can really add as a pro. Is a great shot, can create his own shot. Excellent player off the dribble. Marquise Noel, you saw that. DeAndre Williams, unranked. Malachi Smith. There's so many players that can contribute to a team as of right now. Every year, you're going to find that there are different guys that are going to be solid contributors. But Victor Wembanyama is the sure pick. Scoot Henderson is projected to be number 3 behind Brandon Miller out of Alabama. But Scoot's going to be a guy. Scoot's father actually owns a basketball empire where he's been training his son since he was really young, trains younger players as well too. Basketball family, went to the NBA Ignite, G League Ignite, didn't go to college, and is strong, ready to go. He will help a team out very, very soon. Is maybe going to Portland. We'll see exactly what happens with him going forward. But this is the TrueNorth.BET podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Graham. Super pleased to be back. It's been super, super fun getting together and going through all of these stories in the NBA. I'm going to be coming back very soon with more, fairly soon. But this is a TrueNorth.BET podcast. It's always a bet in the right direction. You already know what it is. Follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud. It's always going to be here. I will be back with some more CFL picks, NFL, so on and so forth. And I cannot wait to get to it. But drop a like, subscribe and like, comment. Let me know exactly what you agree with, what you disagree with, because I'll be back very soon. All right. Keep balling.